Touching moment, single mother of twins discovers incredible support from a billionaire on flight. Susan could hardly believe her luck. The flight attendant announced that their plane had hit the jackpot, a direct flight to California for a job interview that could change everything. As the plane soared into the skies over Chicago, she felt a flicker of hope amidst her overwhelming chaos. With 7-year-old twins, Emma and Jake, perched beside her, curly hair bouncing with excitement, Susan yearned for a life free from worry. A life where her children could thrive without the shadows of debt looming over them. But hope was also tangled with anxiety. She was a hard-working single mother, putting in long hours as a waitress and part-time cleaner. This could be it, she whispered to her kids, forcing a smile even as her chest felt tight. Emma's grades had slipped at school, and Jake often complained of hunger in the evenings. Was there room for dreams when survival was a daily battle? The airplane hummed with life, families traded stories, businesspeople typed furiously on their laptops, while Michael, a wealthy and reclusive billionaire, slumped in his seat beside Susan, glued to his phone. He looked at her family like they were an unfortunate sideshow, his disinterest palpable. Annoyed, she shifted her focus back to Emma, who was reading a book, their only escape from reality. As the flight ascended, turbulence rattled their world. Susan instinctively wrapped her arms around her children. "It's okay, lovelies," she murmured, her voice steady though her heart raced. The cabin erupted in gasps, people clutched their armrests. For a moment, the chaos outside faded, leaving an intimate space filled with Susan's warmth. Emma leaned into her side while Jake tightened his grip. In that heartbeat, Susan was both a warrior and protector, standing tall against the storm. Michael, glancing up, couldn't he look away? He watched as this single mother calmed her children with a strength he hadn't realized existed outside his comfort zone. As the turbulence faded, an unease filled the silence between them, each person reflecting on their life. "Hard work alone isn't enough," he scoffed, his tone dismissive. The air between them crackled with tension, illustrating the chasm in their lives. Susan felt her frustration boil. "You don't know what it's like. Every day is a fight." She shot back, her voice shaking as the words burst free. It was the truth. She poured herself into her work to give the twins the life they deserved. But the weight of financial insecurity hung heavy on her shoulders. Just then, the plane jolted again, violently shaking. Hearts raced, and the cabin erupted in screams. Susan's grip tightened around her children, holding them close. She felt the eyes of strangers on her, witnessing her simple act of unyielding love amidst panic. And in that moment, the wall Michael had built began to crack. Painful memories flashed in his mind, lost family connections and the loneliness his wealth could not fill. The flight soon smoothed out, like a calm after a storm. "I'm sorry," he hesitated, looking at her more intently. When Susan met his gaze, she saw a glint of understanding flicker in his eyes. Their worlds suddenly felt less separate. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. As the plane descended, a new conversation sparked, a connection born from their stark contrasts. Michael learned how Susan juggled life's demands while nurturing the potential of her twins. Her laughter resonated. He found himself drawn in by her resilience. When the flight finally landed, Michael's heart raced with an urge to act. "I have an idea," he began, eyes locking with hers. Would he offer hope? Was he ready to use his wealth to help this family beyond just the air they shared? Yet, uncertainty crackled between them. Would she accept? Would she trust that a billionaire held intentions as genuine as her love for her children? The final question lingered, echoing through the loss and hope that intertwined their lives, leaving them both at the edge of transformation. Susan's heart raced as she sensed the shift in the air. The plane had touched down on solid ground, yet her mind spun with the turbulence of their earlier conversation. Could Michael really help? She glanced over at him, his brow furrowed in concentration, as if the weight of the world was resting on his shoulders. Jake and Emma exchanged excited whispers about what awaited them in California, their innocent chatter a stark contrast to Susan's inner storm. To them, this was a new adventure. But to her, it was a possible lifeline or perhaps another dashed hope. As they disembarked, the figures of the passengers swirled around them, and Susan felt the need to shield her children from the buzzing crowd. "Hold my hand, buddy," she instructed Jake as Emma skipped ahead, eyes wide with curiosity. Michael lingered behind, watching them. He stepped forward just as Susan was about to lose herself in the throng. "Excuse me, Susan, I know this might seem forward, but I want to help," he said, his voice steady but laced with an urgency that made her stop in her tracks. "What do you mean?" Susan asked, her voice tight. Was she ready for this conversation? "Your determination for your kids, it's inspiring." He paused, searching for the right words. "I believe in education, in investing in young minds. If you'd let me, I could help with Emma's schooling and tutoring for Jake." Tension ran high between them as Susan's breath caught in her throat. "Help? Why would you do that?" She couldn't shake the skepticism coursing through her. "No one handed out kindness without a catch, did they? Because I see something special in them. And in you." His honesty was disarming, yet she felt a whirlwind of emotions: gratitude, suspicion, and fear. What strings were attached? "And what do you get out of this?" Michael's gaze softened. "I get to feel connected, to do something worthwhile outside of my business dealings. This isn't about me, it's about giving children a fair shot." Susan's heart swelled, but pride flickered with hesitation. "I can't take charity. I work hard. I want to earn my way." "I understand," he said, stepping closer. "But this isn't charity, think of it as a partnership. I remember what it was like to struggle, even if it looks different now. You'd be giving me a chance to make a difference while giving your kids the opportunities they deserve." She felt her resolve cracking. Michael seemed genuine, but was she truly ready to step into a relationship based on his wealth? What would that mean for her future? "Can we take it slow?" she finally said, her voice trembling. "I need to think about it." "Of course. Just think of it as an option. No pressure." As they stepped into the bustling terminal, Susan wrestled with feelings of hope and apprehension. Michael had offered something unexpected: a potential bridge from the chaos she lived in to a world of possibilities. Emma tugged at her sleeve, beaming. "Mom, look. Can we go get ice cream?" A small laugh escaped Susan's lips, cutting through the tension. "Sure, pumpkin, as long as Jake agrees." Jake, now distracted by a giant advertisement for an amusement park, nodded eagerly. "Awesome." Michael smiled, but the delight in his expression was underscored by concern. He knew this was just the beginning. As they moved through the crowd, their lives were inextricably intertwined now, but the path ahead remained uncertain. Could Susan find the courage to embrace the possibility of help? Or would her fierce independence keep her trapped in a cycle of struggle? With every step they took, their lives painted a picture of intertwining destinies, but Susan couldn't shake the question: what would happen next if she let this billionaire into their world? Susan stood at the terminal's edge, trying to balance her excitement with the anxiety swirling in her chest. The sounds of the airport echoed around her, announcements cracking over the intercom, families reuniting with tearful embraces, and the rush of footsteps on the tiled floor. Each noise was a reminder of her own life, filled with chaos and unpredictability. She glanced at Michael, who was watching her intently. There was something different about him. The warmth in his eyes seemed genuine, almost reassuring. Yet, doubt crept back in, whispering that nothing came free. She had fought hard for everything she had. Could she risk it all for an offer that seemed too good to be true? "Let us get ice cream," she announced, breaking the tension that hung between them. The children squealed with delight, and Susan felt a slight lift in her spirits as they made their way to the bustling food court. It felt remarkably normal, this small act, yet laden with the weight of everything unspoken. "What flavors are you thinking, Jake?" Susan asked as they approached the counter. Chocolate sprinkle. He shouted, bouncing on his heels. Me too. Emma chimed in, eyes wide as she contemplated the choices, her small finger pointing at the glittering array of treats. Michael joined in the laughter, ordering a scoop of mint chocolate chip for himself. It was fascinating to see the kids' enthusiasm lighten the atmosphere, as if they had momentarily shielded her from the world. She couldn't remember the last time she felt this way, surrounded by warmth and laughter instead of a sinking sense of despair. Susan's heart fluttered with a mix of gratitude and dread when she spotted an older couple at the next table. The woman caught her eye and offered a knowing smile, one that seemed to say everything was going to be all right. Susan turned her gaze away quickly, afraid of the emotion welling up within her. Could her life really change? After they finished their ice cream, Michael leaned closer. I mean it, Susan. If you decide to take me up on my offer, I'll be here every step of the way, he said, his voice low and purposeful. I'll think about it, she replied, wrapping her fingers tightly around the remnants of her ice cream cup. Her brain buzzed with conflicting thoughts. On one hand, accepting his help could mean Emma and Jake could thrive. Yet, was she ready to be vulnerable? As they exited into the sunshine, the warm California sun washed over them, dispelling the chill that had lodged in Susan's heart. She knew deep down something had shifted. The walk to the car was filled with Jake and Emma's chatter about the theme parks and beaches, their laughter intertwining with the hum of the world around them. Michael silently trailed behind, his presence both comforting and unsettling. With every step, she felt nearer to a decision that could reshape everything. Suddenly, a strong wind whipped through the open area, sending a group of balloons soaring into the air. Jake gasped, pointed, and before Susan realized, he was off, racing after them. Emma followed, her laughter pealing like bells. Hey! Wait! Susan called, scrambling forward. Michael chuckled behind her, a sound that was infectious. I think they're up for a little adventure. As she rushed to catch up, Susan felt a pulse of hope. Perhaps this could be different. Perhaps the gray clouds of doubt could part, just like the sky above her. But as the children laughed and chased the balloons, a shadow crossed her mind, the memory of being alone when the world felt heavy. Could she truly let Michael in? As the balloons began to drift higher, so did her uncertainty. With each footstep, she confronted a formidable question. If she dared to grasp for those balloons of possibility, could she let go of her fears? And as she watched Jake reach for the colors in the sky, Susan knew she stood at a crossroads. Would she take the leap into the unknown, or let fear tether her to the ground? Susan's heart raced as she sprinted after Jake and Emma, their shouts echoing above the hum of the airport. Each giggle from Emma and each excited shout from Jake felt like a buoy tethered to her, pulling her away from her worries. She watched as they reached up, fingers outstretched, trying to grasp the colorful balloons that danced on the wind. And for a moment, Susan felt an overwhelming sense of peace wash over her. Mom, look! Jake yelled, his eyes wide with excitement as one of the balloons slipped just out of reach. She slowed to a stop, taking a breath. This was the beauty of childhood, she thought, the pure joy in chasing after something as simple as a balloon. For a flicker of time, her burdens felt weightless. Could she bottle this moment forever, hold it close as a shield against the darkness that sometimes engulfed her? I can get it, Emma said, determined as she jumped, trying to snag the trailing ribbon. The sight made Susan inhale sharply. Just a little higher, honey, she called, her voice filled with support, but a pang of doubt flickered in her gut. Could she ever truly give her children this kind of carefree happiness? When had she last felt this free herself? Michael approached, stepping into her line of sight. You know, sometimes you have to let go to make room for something new, he said softly, glancing up at the balloons. His words lingered in the air like the bright colors floating higher. Let go, what did that really mean for her? It meant abandoning the fears that had gripped her so tightly. It meant choosing trust, choosing change, and taking a shot at a life that could be different. But could she really do it? Could she open herself to someone after so long? Susan turned her gaze back to her children. They were lost in their game, laughter contagious. In that moment, she realized they weren't just chasing balloons. they were chasing dreams, untainted by doubt or past disappointments. A knot of resolve began to form inside her. Perhaps it wasn't too late for her to chase something. The wind picked up again, rustling Susan's hair and sending another wave of balloons drifting toward the horizon. Jake and Emma were still focused on their quest, their spirits unhindered by the obstacles. Just then, Jake sighed, frustration creeping into his voice. "They're going away, Mom." Susan felt her heart squeeze. "I know, buddy." She approached him, crouching down to his level. "But look. We can have our own adventures, can't we?" His eyes brightened, and Emma nodded eagerly. "Yeah. Like at the beach." Michael stepped closer, a soft smile gracing his face. "And I have some places in mind for those adventures. Think you're ready to explore?" His offer hung in the air, thick with possibility. Susan's breath quickened. Should she accept? This was more than just a summer trip, it was a chance for her children and her to break free from the cycle of fear. But was she ready for the leap? The kids squealed with excitement, oblivious to the weight of her decision. She studied their delighted faces, and the urge to keep them in a bubble of safety fought against the pull of adventure that Michael was offering. Her mind seemed to race faster than her pulse, a storm brewing within her. As she stood, taking a deep breath, the sight of the balloons disappearing into the bright blue sky ignited something within her. Maybe it was time to grasp for something greater and let the winds of change sweep her along. But before she could answer, a sudden commotion at the terminal entrance caught her attention. A mother's frantic shouts pierced through the laughter. "Help! My child! Someone's taken my child!" In that split second, everything shifted. Susan's heart dropped as the meaning of safety and trust came crashing down into a frightening reality. Could she still choose to follow her dreams with this lurking threat of fear in every corner? The adventure she was considering suddenly felt daunting, as if shadows had returned to cloud her thoughts. What happened next would define her carefully constructed world. Would she stand strong for her children amidst the chaos, or would her past fears drag them all back? The chaos erupted like a wave, washing over the airport. Owen, a stranger in a dark suit, hurried past Susan, his eyes scanning the crowd. Behind him, the shouts of the frantic mother echoed, each cry carving deeper into the pit of Susan's stomach. Mom?" Jake's voice trembled, confusion flickering in his wide eyes. He clutched Emma's hand tightly, her little fingers curling around his. "Stay close, kids," Susan instructed, her voice steady though her heart raced. The world around her felt so fragile. She glanced toward the source of the commotion, a woman disheveled and pale, shouting for help, searching desperately through the sea of strangers. Susan's heart ached for her. The raw fear was palpable. In an instant, she was transported back to her darkest moments, when she had been a single, overwhelmed parent, paralyzed with worry. The anxiety pressed against her chest like a weight she couldn't shake. "Owen! Over here!" A voice called, pulling her from her thoughts. It was Michael, a friendly presence in the whirlwind of panic. With purpose, he darted into the fray, his tall frame cutting through the crowd. "Let us help her," he urged, glancing back at Susan. Her mind raced. She wanted to leap into action but felt glued to the spot, wrestling with an instinctive need to keep her children close, to protect them. But then she saw at Emma's face, brightened with confusion and a hint of fear. "Mom?" Emma asked again, her little voice so small amidst the chaos. With a deep breath, Susan took her children's hands. "We're going to help. Stay with me." The words felt strong, grounding her as she stepped forward, following Michael into the mass of people. As they moved, the mother's frantic cries grew louder, each echo a dagger in her heart. The scene was a blur of faces, each one reflecting concern and empathy. Together, they reached the distressed woman, who was now sobbing, her hands clutching her phone as if it could provide answers. "Did you see him?" The mother gasped, desperation in her eyes. "He was just here." Owen joined them, his expression serious but calm, shoulders squared as he addressed the distraught parent. "We'll find your child. I promise you. His assurance hung in the air, a beacon of hope amidst turmoil. Susan felt drawn to his confidence, the way strength radiated off him as he began organizing the crowd. Okay, listen, Owen said loudly, his voice cutting through the panic. Everyone, please. If you see a child alone or if you are with someone who looks distressed, please come forward. Time is of the essence. Susan marveled at how he took charge, commanding the moment like a captain steering his ship through a storm. She looked down at her children, who were watching intently, their eyes wide. Everything will be okay, she whispered, hoping her voice carried assurance amid the uncertainty swirling around them. But doubt flickered in the back of her mind. What if it wasn't okay? Her heart clenched at the thought. Would she ever feel that same lightness again, that thrill of adventure she had been so close to embracing just moments ago? Minutes crawled by as they stood, holding their breath. Susan's heart pounded with the rhythm of their surrounding shouts, whispers, the overhead speakers announcing flights. Each second dragged on, stretching her nerves thin. Then, just as fear started to settle in her throat, the crowd parted. A small boy emerged, his tear-streaked face lighting up at the sight of his mother. The relief in the air was electric, and Susan felt a wave of emotion rush through her. The mother was at her son in an instant, wrapping him in her arms, her sobs now ones of joy. Oh, thank God. My baby. Watching the reunion unfold, Susan felt tears prickling at her eyes. It was a beautiful reminder of love's unbreakable bond. It struck her profoundly life was unpredictable, often chaotic, but at its core was a deep yearning for connection. As the thrill of that moment replayed in her mind, she turned to Michael. Did you see that? He nodded, a warm smile spreading across his face. In moments of crisis, we remember what really matters. Her heart soared a little at his words and the truth they carried. Suddenly, it became clear. Her fears didn't have to dictate her path. And she could take a step forward, even in the darkest of times. Are you ready for those adventures now? Michael asked softly, a gentle challenge wrapped in hope. Susan glanced at her kids, who were still beaming from the excitement. What would it mean to truly embrace that chance to let go, to breathe, to chase dreams together? But as thoughts of the beach and carefree days began to dance in her mind, the overhead intercom crackled again. This time, it wasn't about a lost child. Attention, passengers. Due to a security alert, her breath caught. What would come next would change everything yet again. Would she navigate this next storm, or would it take her breath away once and for all? The announcement hung in the air, sharp and dissonant. A shadow swept over the joyful reunion, dousing the excitement like a sudden rainstorm. Susan's heart raced as she glanced at her kids, their faces a mix of curiosity and confusion. She could feel the collective anxiety rising around her, whispered anxieties mixing with the crackle of the intercom. Mom, what's a security alert? Jake asked, his little brow furrowing. Nothing to worry about, she replied, though doubt crept in. Her voice was steady, but her heart was pounding with fear. The airport had turned from a hub of laughter and excitement to a cauldron of tension. Owen seemed to read the room. His brows knitted together, he stepped forward to the group that was now gathering, the soft chaos of travelers switching to something more frantic. Everyone, please listen. He called again, his voice commanding yet calm. Stay close to your families. Move towards the terminal security checkpoints if you're not already there. We'll keep you informed. The strength of his presence was palpable, offering a sense of comfort amid confusion. Susan could see why people instinctively gravitated towards him. He commanded respect with just his demeanor. But as he spoke, her heart raced with the images of her children getting lost in the chaos, fear stronger than before. Let us go, she urged, gripping Emma's hand tightly, pulling Jake along as they moved toward a nearby seating area. Stay together, keep your eyes on me. With every step, tension coiled tighter within her. A part of her was dying to know what was happening, yet another part screamed for her to secure Emma and Jake. She couldn't afford to lose them, not now. Mom? I'm scared, Emma whispered, her petite frame shaking slightly. Susan knelt down, meeting her daughter's eyes. I know, sweetheart. But we're together, and that's what's important. She forced a smile, but inside, a storm was brewing. What would they do if things turned worse? Michael returned to her side, concern etched across his face. We need to make sure they're safe, he said softly, squeezing her shoulder. Let us stick with the crowd. They'll lead us to safety. Before she could respond, the atmosphere thickened as people around them began to panic. Shouts erupted from some in the crowd, and the jet-black figures of security personnel appeared, moving with purpose. Susan's heart mirrored the thundering tempo of her surroundings, each beat matching the urgency rising within. Suddenly, Owen was back, moving toward them with intensity. We need to get to the main exits. Follow me. He was a lighthouse amidst a raging sea, a singular focus drawing those around him. They started moving, mingling with others who were equally lost in their fears. Susan's focus shifted to the kids, who were trailing behind, eyes darting between the adults pushing forward and the guards stationed ominously throughout the airport. Stay close, kids. Don't let go of my hand. She urged, glancing back to ensure they were still with her. Each child held on tighter, grounding her even as panic threatened to derail them. As they reached a secure area, Susan's breath hitched. Why are we stopping? I don't want to be here. Her thoughts raced. Surely, this wasn't happening. I need everyone to move to the exit. Please remain calm. Owen's voice rang out again as he surveyed the crowd, reading their reactions. The atmosphere was a pressure cooker, and she could feel hope slipping. Just then, a stern voice echoed over the intercom again. All personnel, lockdown in effect. Please proceed calmly to the nearest exits. This is not a drill. A knock at the door of her sanity sent newfound fear surging through her. What could possibly be causing this alarm? Would they be safe? Amidst the clamor, she felt Michael's steady hand on her back. We'll get through this, Susan. Just breathe. Focus on the kids. Susan nodded, yet dread knotted her stomach. Would she continue to find that hope in the darkest moments? The movement of people began settling into more of a mass, everyone directed outward, but Susan felt as if time had slowed. She needed clarity. But as they stepped closer toward the exit, something in Owen's demeanor caught her attention. He was scanning the crowd again, a flicker of concern mixed with determination. Mom? Jake's voice broke through her thoughts. Look. And then, at that moment, she saw the chaos once again, but this time, it was the realization in Owen's eyes that caught her breath. Why would they want to? Susan began but was interrupted as her eyes traveled to a family huddled nearby, their expressions filled with a different kind of fear. In that moment, everything changed, as she began to piece together the implications of the situation surrounding them. Could they hold on to hope? Or was it all slipping away just as fast as it had come together? A thought twisted in her mind, and she found herself staring down the darkness ahead, not knowing if that was where their journey would lead next. The crowd surged around them, a current of unease that pulled at each individual like a rip tide. Susan's instincts kicked in, driving her to keep Michael and the kids close. She could feel Jake's grip on her hand tightening, his little knuckles white from the fear bubbling just below the surface. Emma remained quiet, her big eyes darting from one face to another, absorbing the anxious energy that enveloped them. Mom, what's happening? Jake whispered again, glancing up at her, his expression a mixture of confusion and worry. Just a precaution, buddy, she replied, her voice trembling slightly. We just need to stick together. Owen was a few steps ahead, his stature drawing people like moths to a flame, his voice cutting through the noise as he continued instructing frantic flyers. We're almost there. Keep moving. Together. They shuffled forward, but every few feet, Susan could feel her heart sinking deeper. She stole glances at Owen. It was as if he had become a general, leading everyone away from the battlefield of fear. But for Susan, the tension created a horrifying reality. What if their escape led them into something worse? Just ahead, a family of 4 seemed lost, their faces pale with terror, hands clutching one another tightly. The sight struck her. She recalled countless moments when she felt that familiar tug of fear, moments when she doubted the world would keep her children safe. But in that moment of chaos, Susan's breath hitched, overwhelmed with compassion. "We need to help them," she said to Michael, pointing to the family. He frowned, taking a quick glance before looking back at her. "Susan, we have to keep moving. We can't stop there's a chance they could get lost," she insisted, her heart racing at the thought of anyone feeling as she had only moments ago, isolated and fearful. A warmth spread through her at the thought of showing someone else the strength she had received from others in her own darkest times. "Okay," Michael reluctantly agreed, and they veered slightly off course. As they reached the huddled family, Owen's voice rang out again, demanding order while simultaneously lighting up the dreadful gloom with a flicker of hope. "Excuse me," Susan called to the family, who looked up, startled but curious. "Are you okay? Do you need help?" The mother's eyes filled with tears, relief flooding her features. "Yes, we got separated during the announcement. I thought we lost each other." "Come with us," Susan urged. "We're all trying to head out." The family joined them, and together they made their way through the throng, moving closer to the exit. With every step, Susan reinforced her grip on Emma and Jake, a lifeline that seemed to bond them together. But just as they reached the conveyor belt of light that heralded hope, an even louder shout erupted from behind them, causing her heart to plummet. "Lockdown protocol initiated." "Repeat. Lockdown protocol initiated. Remain in place." Chaos encircled them again, time freezing as people turned back in fear. Owen turned, his expression sudden and fierce, eyes locking onto Susan's. "We need to move now." The tension peaked, the air electric with the memories of panic. Susan felt a dizzying rush as she processed Owen's urgent voice. It was the light beckoning her forth. "Go," Owen commanded, his authority piercing through the terror. "I'll help guide everyone behind." "Keep going. Let us go," Michael yelled, pushing forward, but something in Susan hesitated. Owen wasn't just a leader, he was a protector, a beacon of hope thrown into the chaos. As the crowd started pulling apart, she felt drawn to him. Would she trust him to get them all to safety, or should she pull back and protect her own? The weight of her decision spun around in her mind like a tornado. Was she willing to trust a stranger in such dire circumstances just because he exuded confidence? What if he couldn't deliver on that promise? Before she could answer herself, another fear gripped at her. What if her decision was made too late, leaving her and her children in danger? In that pivotal moment, buried beneath layers of dread, one thing became clear: they had to decide whom and what to trust if they were to find their way to safety. And as they forged ahead, her heart racing with questions of loyalty and courage, she wondered, could stepping into the unknown lead them home or into the heart of chaos? The moment had arrived, and Susan felt the dual weight of panic and resolve. Owen's voice carried confidence that resonated deep within her, cutting through the fear that loomed like a thick fog. She sensed Michael's impatience, his determination to push through at any cost. Yet, her heart whispered the importance of sticking together, of not losing sight of compassion amidst chaos. "Let us go," Michael urged again, tightening his grip on Jake and Emma as they continued their journey forward. "All right, we're with you," Susan reassured the family they had just saved, a quick glance exchanged that confirmed they were in this together. As they moved toward the exit, the pressing mass of bodies swelled and receded like waves crashing onto a shore, chaotic and relentless. Every step felt fraught as Susan turned back to catch a glimpse of Owen, hoping he was keeping the other families together. The tension dripped from the air like sweat, each sound amplifying her anxiety: a child's wail, an adult's frantic call for loved ones. "Mom, I don't want to go back," Jake whimpered, his grip slipping slightly in the frenzy. "Just a little further, honey. You're doing great," she comforted, her voice breaking but firm. She knelt down to meet his worried gaze, taking his small hands in both of hers, grounding them in that connection. In moments like this, love felt like a shield. They wove through the crowd, each person's face a mask of fear or determination. The family behind them, now shielding their own children, glanced at Susan, gratitude apparent in their eyes. It was a small reminder that in the darkest of times, kindness could still flicker. Suddenly, the crowd lurched, momentum sweeping them toward the Stark exit sign. It glimmered ahead, promising safety. Susan felt the knot in her stomach tighten yet again as something cold gripped her heart. What would happen when they reached the doors? Would safety be within their grasp, or had the chaos merely shifted forms? Stay close, everyone. Susan demanded, her motherly instincts kicking in, her fierce determination igniting with renewed energy. As they reached the threshold, a new sound broke through the din, the loud clanging of metal, the hasty footsteps of officials. Suddenly, a silhouette loomed closer, bringing with it an overwhelming presence. A guard or perhaps an official, but amid the roiling crowds, it felt menacing rather than reassuring. Make way, make way. Of course, it was an authority figure, but Susan's heart raced for a completely different reason. Mom! Emma called, her voice quaking. It was a plea that tugged at every fiber of Susan's being, overwhelming her with an innate desire to protect. Keep moving. Michael urged, nudging them forward, but Susan hesitated, her gut telling her to stay put. They were so close, yet every fiber in her body screamed that the situation wasn't over. What had they walked into? Each second stretched like an eternity, and as the guard neared, the fear in the air thickened. Keep going. Now. Owen's voice echoed behind them, pulling her from her daze. Emboldened by his command, she urged her family forward, just as the guard's eyes locked onto her for a moment that felt like an eternity. She clutched Jake and Emma tighter, the burning question racing in her mind. Were they truly safe, or had they just traded one fear for another? With every step, the urgency grew, pounding in her chest. They had to make it through. But would they emerge on the other side whole, or forever changed? Trapped in the shadows of chaos, the threshold beckoned. And as they edged closer, Susan couldn't shake the nagging feeling that at any moment, the ground could shift beneath them. What awaited them just beyond the doors? Would it bring salvation or deeper turmoil? As they crossed the threshold, sunlight flooded their senses, an intense contrast to the dark chaos they had left behind. Susan squinted against the brightness, her heart racing. Fresh air filled her lungs, but the lingering tension pulled at her. They weren't out of danger yet. Michael, adrenaline surging, propelled them forward. Keep moving. He shouted, urgency pushing them towards the parking lot. Owen was close behind, ushering other families out, the weight of responsibility etched on his face, but Susan felt rooted, momentarily frozen. The outside world buzzed with frightened voices, but still, she could hear the echo of her children's heavy breathing. They had made it, but at what cost? Shaking off the feeling, she continued, squeezing Jake and Emma's hands tightly as they rushed past the clamor of bodies still milling around, desperately searching for loved ones. Mom, is it really safe now? Emma's small voice trembled, pulling Susan back into focus. It's okay, sweetheart. Susan forced a smile, desperate to be their anchor. We're together. That's all that matters. They reached the parking lot, a sprawling landscape of vehicles, but there was confusion everywhere. People were shouting, pointing, trying to locate someone. The chaos they had just escaped seemed to ripple into this space. Where's Dad? Jake asked, glancing around with wide, frightened eyes. Let us look for him, okay? Susan said, her heart twisting as panic threatened to swallow her. We'll find him. They began weaving through the rows of cars, the sounds of sirens and shouting mixing with their rising anxiety. In a desperate attempt to dispel the fear growing inside her, Susan tried to call out, anyone seen a man with brown hair, wearing a blue jacket? But her voice was lost amid the rising din. Mom, over there. Look. Emma pointed towards a cluster of people, their voices rising in volume. A knot formed in Susan's stomach. The heaviness of uncertainty bore down. Just as they approached, a commotion erupted. A security officer, flanked by two others, gestured with authority, directing people with raised hands. The scene twisted into turmoil. Susan felt her heart sink. What's happening? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. They're checking for people who are injured, Michael said, his tone laced with unease. We need to be careful. Then, unexpectedly, a figure stepped forward. It was a woman, stylish in her dark jacket, with sharp features framed by hair pulled back tightly. She held a walkie-talkie, her expression fierce as she spoke to the officers. And then, she locked eyes with Susan. Over here. The woman called, motioning with a firm gesture. If you're with your family, come with me. Mom, should we go? Jake asked, uncertainty flashing in his eyes. Yes, let us see what she wants, Susan replied, but her heart pounded. She still couldn't shake the feeling that they were being funneled into something more dangerous. Trusting strangers had never felt so risky. As they hurried toward her, the woman began issuing orders again. We need to regroup families. Stay together, but keep moving. I don't like this, Emma mumbled. Neither do I, Susan whispered back. She felt every instinct telling her to protect her children, yet the urgency of their situation pulled her along. This was a moment of choice, trust or defiance. Mom, please. I want to go home. Jake cried, tears brimming in his eyes, but just as they were about to reach the woman, an explosion of voices erupted around them, anger, panic, and fear crackling in the air like static electricity. Susan's heart raced again, the first taste of freedom fading fast. What is going on? She turned to Michael, their eyes heavy with worry. Something's not right. We need to move, now. He insisted, his grip firm on Jake and Emma. And like a breath held too long, the tension snapped. Susan felt a rush of decisions clawing to adhere to her heart. Could she trust the unknown, or should she risk everything to seek true safety? With her family at her side, she prepared to make a choice that could change everything. But just then, from the crowd behind them, a familiar voice shouted, and Susan's heart skipped. Mom! Over here. It was Michael. But who, or what, had called him back? The chaos swirled around them like a storm, and Susan's heart thudded wildly in her chest. She turned to see the familiar face of her nephew, Michael, rushing toward them, eyes wide with concern. Mom! I was so scared. He cried, arms wide open. Relief washed over her like a cool wave breaking after a drought. In an instant, Susan knelt down and embraced him tightly, blocking out the frantic world around them. I'm here. I'm here. She whispered, clutching him close as Emma and Jake hugged in too. Time stretched as they held on, shielding themselves in a moment of warmth amidst the chaos. Where's Dad? Jake's worried voice broke the tender moment, reminding Susan of the uncertainty that still loomed. He's right behind me. Michael reassured, his voice steady but a little shaky. Just then, their father appeared, a look of bewilderment etched across his face. The family conjoined, an overwhelming relief washing over them like a wave. For a moment, their surroundings faded. It was nothing but them, strong, united. The security officer nearby noticed their reunion, her arms crossed with authority, but her expression softened. Good to see families together. Please stay close as we continue organizing everyone. Feeling a surge of gratitude, Susan turned to Owen for his guidance, only to find him directing another family away from the tumult. Her heart swelled. He hadn't forgotten them. But doubts lingered. Do we trust them? Susan whispered to Michael, glancing at the pressing crowd. Look around us. It's only going to get worse, he pointed out. We need to move before it turns chaotic. Stick together, no more second-guessing. The thought sent a chill down Susan's spine, but there was little choice now. In the face of uncertainty, she clasped her children's hands and made the decision: they would leave this pandemonium behind. There was power in their unity, a protective bubble she desperately needed amidst the roiling emotions. Follow me, everyone. Susan urged, her voice stronger now, echoing with determination. They moved together as one, her father, nephew, and kids. An unbreakable line formed against the uncertainty swirling behind them. Suddenly, another announcement crackled over the intercom. Attention all passengers. We are safe now. Security measures have been lifted. Please remain calm and in your groups, and you will be assisted. Breathless relief washed over Susan, and as they stepped into the next corridor, the sun streamed in. Glimmers of hope pierced through the fear, illuminating their way forward. Slowly, the tension began to fade from Susan's shoulders. She realized these turbulent moments had bound them together even more tightly, a newfound strength drawing from the fear and chaos. Parents and children around her hugged, and laughter started to break through the wall of worry. Just like her kids had chased those balloons, they too could let go of the weight of fear and embrace new dreams anew. Can we still go to the beach? Emma chimed in, voice bright like a beacon illuminating the gray. Of course. Susan smiled widely. Adventure awaits us. In her heart, she felt something shift. As they reached the outdoor terrace overlooking the valley, the world extended out before them, vivid and inviting. We have a new beginning ahead, she said, drawing in a deep breath of assurance. Michael nodded, sensing the shift in the air. Let us make it an adventure worth living. As Susan looked at her family, her twins with bright smiles, her father's comforting presence, and Michael's open heart, she realized her new journey wouldn't be alone. It would be filled with connection, trust, and the courage to dream again. In that moment, she knew, while storms may come and go, love would be their constant anchor. Ready? Michael asked, his eyes catching the sunlight, reflecting hope. Yes. Let us go. Susan beamed. They walked hand in hand now, into the vibrant California life waiting for them, embracing the possibilities like those balloons soaring in the sky, leaving behind shadows of the past for a life unfurling ahead, and so, they stepped forward. Together, into the sun-drenched future where every moment was a chance to heal, to let go and to chase both dreams and joy, unbound and courageous. This is the moment for you to be part of something extraordinary. Hit that subscribe button immediately so you won't miss the next exclusive stories that inspire and uplift. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm that keeps us going. Think about your reactions and feelings about this ending and comment below. I want to hear all about your reflections. Don't wait not even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this amazing transformation. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Let us spread the love together.